I'm Sarah, I'm 26 years old, and this story happened at St. Mary's General Hospital in Detroit. I had just finished nursing school, an idealistic young woman. I wanted to help people, save lives, but it took me some time to learn what the night shift really meant. St. Mary's was a large 12-story hospital. Third floor was cardiology, fifth floor oncology, seventh floor intensive care, eighth floor psychiatry. I started working on the fifth floor with cancer patients. Night shift was from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. On my first day, the nurse training me was Linda. She had 15 years of experience but looked tired. Her tone seemed strange when she was explaining the hospital rules. "Listen, honey," she said, "night shift is different. It's not the same as daytime. Even if you see some things, don't record them. Even if you hear some sounds, don't go investigate." "What do you mean?" I asked. Linda hesitated. "Just focus on the patient's needs. Nothing else matters." That night after Linda left, I was alone. There were 24 patients on the fifth floor. Most were sleeping, some were calm from pain medication. I sat at the nurse's station, reviewing patient files. Around midnight, the corridor lights started flickering. Could be an electrical problem, I thought. Then I heard a rattling sound from room 523. In this room was Mr. Wilson, a 67-year-old prostate cancer patient. When I entered the room, Wilson was sleeping, but the IV stand was swinging rapidly. It was strange because there had been no air current in the room. I stabilized the stand and left. The second day got even stranger. Around 2 a.m., the elevator started ringing. Ding, ding, ding. It kept going up and down to the 8th floor. But when I checked the elevator logs, nobody had used it during night hours. The third night, I was sitting at the nurse's station when I started hearing keyboard sounds. It was like the keys on one of the computers were being pressed by themselves. I approached, but there was nothing there. Patient records were opening and closing on the screen. It was the fourth night when things got serious. After midnight, the call button rang from room 519. In this room was Mrs. Rodriguez, a 72-year-old breast cancer patient. When I went to the room, I found it empty. "Where is Mrs. Rodriguez?" I asked Mike, the night security guard. "Who?" said Mike. "Room 519 is empty, closed for renovation." This was impossible. I had talked to Mrs. Rodriguez that morning. I checked the patient records. There was no patient named Mrs. Rodriguez. There never had been. The fifth night, I asked Linda, "What happened to Mrs. Rodriguez?" Linda's face tensed. "Who are you referring to, Sarah?" "The patient in 519, the breast cancer patient. Room 519 has been closed for 6 months. Nobody is staying there." That night, I looked at 519 again. The room was indeed empty, dusty, and unused, but there were fresh wrinkles in the bed sheets, as if someone had just gotten up. The sixth night was the worst. At 3 a.m., an alarm went off, code blue, cardiac arrest. It was coming from room 521. I ran with the doctor and nurse team. In the room was a 45-year-old man, terminal lung cancer patient. He had no pulse. We performed CPR for 15 minutes but lost him. The doctor recorded the time of death as 3:17. We called the family for funeral arrangements, but the next night, the same patient was walking in the corridor, in hospital pajamas, dragging his IV stand, shuffling his feet as he slowly moved forward. His face was pale. His eyes were cloudy but open. "Excuse me," I said. "You need to return to your room." The man turned and looked at me. He didn't speak, but when he opened his mouth, no sound came out. Then he slowly walked toward 521 and entered the room. I followed him. The room was empty. The bed had been changed, cleaned, prepared for a new patient. The next morning, I told Linda. "Sarah," she said, "the stress is very heavy here. Maybe you should take some time off." But I knew what I had told her was real. The seventh night, I was more prepared. I had downloaded a voice recording app on my phone. At 2 a.m., I started hearing footsteps in the corridor, slow, dragging steps. I recorded it. The sounds approached the nurse's station. When I turned around, an elderly woman was standing there. She was wearing a hospital gown, but her gown was old, faded. The woman's face was very pale, and her eyes were sunken deep. "Nurse," the woman said in a weak voice, "I can't find my room." "Which room are you staying in?" I asked. 237, she said. "Room 237. My heart rate accelerated. Room 237 was on the upper floor and had been under renovation for 3 months. "Nobody could stay there, ma'am. 237 is currently closed. Your room must be different." The woman smiled at me strangely. "No, dear. I've been in 237 for a very long time." In the blink of an eye, the woman disappeared, as if she had never been there. When I listened to the voice recording, I only heard my own voice. The woman's voice wasn't on the recording. The 8th night, I decided to visit 237. I took the elevator to the 2nd floor. The corridor was dark, and renovation work seemed half finished. The door to 237 had "under construction" written on it. The door was ajar. When I looked inside, it was a normal patient room, but different. The bed was old. The walls were colorless, as if nobody had renovated this place for decades. Someone was lying in the bed. It was an elderly woman, the woman who had talked to me at night. Her eyes were closed. She wasn't breathing, but she was there. "Ma'am," I said. The woman opened her eyes. "You found me," she said. "I've been waiting." "Who are you? Why are you here?" "My name is Margaret Chen. I died in this room in 1987, but I never left." A patient information card was hanging on the room wall. Margaret Chen, 73 years old, lung cancer. Date of death, March 15th, 1987. "But that's impossible," I said. "Many of us stayed, dear. We couldn't leave. The pain, the fear, it keeps us here." "Us?" Margaret smiled. "Look around. We're everywhere." At that moment, sounds started coming from the corridor. Footsteps, wheelchair sounds, oxygen machine rattles. When I looked out the door, dozens of patients were walking in the corridor, all from past eras, all from different years. An elderly man in hospital pajamas from the 1970s, a young woman in surgical clothes from the 1980s, a child with chemotherapy bandages from the 1990s. They all started walking toward me. "Join us," they said in chorus. "Stay with us. Help us." I had a panic attack. I ran to the stairs and went downstairs. I reached the nurse's station out of breath, but the worst happened when morning came. Linda came for the shift change. "Sarah, how was the night?" "Linda, there are patients in 237, dead patients. They ... Linda stopped me. "Sarah, room 237 never existed. This hospital is 12 stories. Each floor has 36 rooms. There's no room number 237. We checked the hospital floor plan. Linda was right. The 2nd floor had rooms 201 to 236. Room 237 didn't exist. But I had been there. I had talked to Margaret. The 9th night was my last night. I decided to resign. But Linda gave me one last piece of information. "Sarah, let me tell you something. I've been working at this hospital since 1975. Every year we hire 2 to 3 new nurses, but most can't last a month. Why? Because they are patients who remained in the past try to communicate with new nurses. They want them to help. Do you see them too? Not anymore. I used to see them in my first years, but you learn. You learn to ignore them. That night on my last rounds, I saw Margaret in the corridor. She waved at me. "Thank you for seeing me," she said. "Most people can't anymore. Why can't you leave?" "Fear, dear. We died afraid and alone. That fear keeps us here. But when someone sees us, talks to us, it helps." "How can I help?" "Just remember us. Remember that we were here." I checked the hospital files one last time. I found Margaret Chen's record. She had died in 1987, but she had no family. She had died alone. Nobody had come to visit. That's when I understood. The ghosts in the hospital were patients who had died alone, forgotten. They just wanted to be seen, remembered. On my last day, I found Margaret's grave. In a small cemetery in Detroit, a neglected stone. I left flowers on it. "Rest in peace, Margaret," I said. I never saw her again after that night. Now it's been 3 years. I work at another hospital on the day shift. But sometimes at night I dream of St. Mary's. Those patients walking in the corridors, still there, still waiting. I always give the same advice to young people graduating nursing school. Before taking a night shift, learn who died in that hospital. Because some of them might still be there. And if you see them, don't run away in fear. Most don't want to harm. They just want to be remembered, seen. Because death is scary enough. Being forgotten is worse. I have nurse friends who still work at St. Mary's. I call occasionally to ask how the 5th floor is. They always give the same answer. Normal. But night shift nurses change very quickly. They can't last a month. I know why I lasted. I saw them, talked to them, and I showed them respect. But let me say this last thing. If you work in a hospital and you're on night shift, make sure every patient you see in the corridors is actually alive, because some might just be visitors.